Hey everyone, it is late at night and I'm Norman. Welcome to the 2023 Christmas special. And tonight, once again, we're joined by none other than the Wendigo.
Merry Christmas, watch nerds. Tonight, we will be looking at some brilliant red dial watches, as well as some amazing green dial watches, and some Christmas watches.
That's right, and if you stick around till the end of the video, we'll find out which of the watches is the Wendigo's favorite. And we'll continue the tradition started last year of watching a terrifying Christmas video. So let us begin. The first watch on my list is a green dial, and it's a Bulova Devil Diver. And I found this watch on Teddy's site. Nice. So this watch has a great looking green dial, dot indices for the hours. It does have a date window at the 3 o'clock, but it also has crosshairs. It has a black and green bezel on it, and a tonneau-shaped case. It comes on a bracelet. I love the hue of green that they chose for this watch, and the black and green bezel on it is really cool looking. I like the thick, minimalist hands. The proportions of the dot indices on the dial are great, and of course, I love the crosshairs. This watch is a big beast at 44 millimeters. It has a thickness of 14.6 millimeters, a lug width of 20 millimeters. The crystal is sapphire. The water resistance is 200 meters, and these watches retail for $541. The next watch on my list is a red dial Seiko Presage. Ah, the cocktail time. I honestly want to get one of these just because of that nickname. If they came in vintage size, I would own one of these. I have kept my eyes open for a ladies variant because those are vintage size, but they're kind of spendy, and I just don't know about that date window. But the dials on these watches are just absolutely amazing. I've had the pleasure of seeing one in person. My good buddy Nick lent me one back in the day. And yeah, those dials are just phenomenal. I love the hour markers on this one, and the way the red dial fades to black at the edges. Oh, that is cool. It has a great guilloche pattern on it. The seconds hand counterweight is super fun too. And the date window is nicely framed. I found this one on Amazon. The case size is 38.5 millimeters, so they aren't gigantic. The case height is 11.79 millimeters. The crystal is Hardlex, and these have 50 meters of water resistance. And this one was being sold for $425. Next up, we have another watch that I found on Teddy's site. And this is a green dial watch, and it is none other than the Seiko Alpinist. The colorway on these watches is so brilliant. I love the gold accents on the dial in conjunction with that green. So amazing. The pairing of the minute hand and the hour hand on these watches just looks elegant. As you know, I'm not a huge fan of date windows, and I'm really not a fan of cyclopses. This has both, but that's fine. I believe a bit ago these were really hard to get. I'm gonna have to look around. I mean, I think this one was available for sale, so maybe not so much anymore. Or maybe it was a different variant of them that was really tough to get your hands on. These watches have a 39.5mm case. They are 13.2mm thick, so they're a little bit chunky. The crystal is sapphire, amazing, especially with Seiko. They have a lug width of 20mm and a water resistance of 200 meters. And this one was being sold for $725. Next up, we have a crazy blinged out red royal oak. And I found this on the brand's website, and it has red jewels all over it. All over the dial, all over the bracelet, all over the bezel. They're even on the crown. I do like the hands on this watch. Royal oak hands are great. They have some subtle details to them, if you look closely. Like how they get narrow at the base. Kinda cool. But I am not big on bling at all. And it's just a little bit spendy. But it's red. So this watch has a 37mm case size. The case material is 18 karat white gold. The water resistance is a pretty amazing 20 meters. And the cost on this watch is just under $500,000. Next, we have a green dial Nomos. It is a brilliant looking Neomatic Club Sport. It has a sunburst dial on it that's a really interesting shade of green. It's kind of a metallic green with a touch of blue to it. Just pretty crazy. The dial design is super clean. I kind of like the club watches. I've never seen one in person though, but this one looks pretty great. It has a small seconds complication on it at the 6 o'clock, and the even number hours are called out in Arabic numerals in a great looking font. These watches have 37mm cases. They are 8.4mm thick. The crystal on these watches is sapphire. The movement inside them is the DUW3001. I know nothing about that movement. I'm gonna have to read about it. And the water resistance on these watches is 200 meters. I saw this one on Nomos' site and it was being sold for $3,530. Next up, we have a Revue Thommen watch. This brand was new to me, and I found this watch on the Ashford website. This piece has sharp hour indices on it, very unique shaped hands, and I really like that seconds hand. The hue of red on the dial is just great. The case is elegant and polished. However, the spring bars are really inset into those lugs. Think when it's on your wrist you probably wouldn't notice, and it does cut down on the space between the strap and the case itself. I really like those hour markers. I think their proportions are perfect for that dial. They aren't too large or crazy. I think they're a good size. From pictures, these appear to be amazing looking watches. The case size on them is 39mm. The case height is 10mm. The crystal is sapphire. And the movement inside them is a Sellita SW200. They have 50 meters of water resistance and they retail for about $500. Next, we have a green dial Omega. This is a Seamaster Aquaterra. The dial has really cool looking horizontal lines etched into it. I love the hue of green they went with on this. I'm barely a fan of arrows at the ends of hour hands. I am not at all a fan of having arrows on the end of the minutes hand. Nope. This has that. But at least it's kind of subtle. It's not huge. The date window on it is tasteful, and it has a dark background. It's positioned at the 6 o'clock, so everything is nice and symmetrical. The case and bezel looks great on these watches, so does the bracelet. They have a 41mm case size. The The crystal on these is sapphire. The movement inside these watches is an Omega 8900. They have 150 meters of water resistance, and they retail for $6,300. And I found this watch on Omega's website. Next up we have a Muhle. I'm not sure how that's pronounced. They're German watches. This watch has a red dial, and it is the Panova Red. It has a super unique dial design to it. The hour markers are thin batten markers, but they have a dot of lume where the minutes track is, which is super cool looking. You have this dot of lume that's like part way through the hour marker. And it has a very subtle sunburst to it. The hands are nice and minimal, utilitarian, just thick stick hands. And the seconds hand is done in black. These have tooly looking cases, and they ship on a NATO strap. The case size is 40 millimeters. The case height is 10.4 millimeters. The crystal is sapphire, and they have 100 meters of water resistance. And these watches retail for just under $1,200. Alright, so now we're going to look at some actual Christmas watches, not just watches with red or green dials. The first one is a vintage Frosty the Snowman watch. I found this on Carol's Vintage Jewelry. I like the clean, fun dial on this. I feel like having characters on dials can go south really quickly. But I think this one looks great. It really captures the spirit of the holidays. The strap on it is a little bit painful, but I feel like with a dressier strap it might look kinda cool. The yellow gold case is perfect for the overall aesthetic of this watch. The case size is 35 millimeters, great size for a vintagey piece. Unfortunately, it was a one-off and it's been sold. The next watch I found on Etsy, and I had to include it in here just because it's so cute. I mean, just look at that face and its little antlers. How am I not going to include that in this video? And the last two are my personal favorites. We have a Snoopy Timex Marlin. The dial on this watch has an interesting blue color to it. But in the bottom right corner, we have Snoopy and Woodstock. Snoopy's wearing a Santa hat, and they're hugging each other. Aww. I love Timex Marlins, and this one is super Christmassy and super fun. The hour markers look great on it, and it's a nice size for vintage nerds like me. The case size is 34 millimeters. The crystal is acrylic. The water resistance on these watches is 30 meters, and they retail for about $230. The last two watches on my list are actually swatches. One of them I found on Hodinkee, and it is great. This is Swatch's Ugly Christmas Sweater swatch. So the dial has an ugly sweater pattern all over it, and that is carried over into the strap. I feel like this watch absolutely captures the spirit of ugly Christmas sweaters. It looks so great. And it would look really great if you wear it with an ugly sweater. Yes. This swatch is a gents watch, so the case size is 34 millimeters. The case height is 8.75 millimeters, and they retail for $100. And the last Christmas watch that I have on my list is actually my own, the Swatch Masa. You'll notice that it has green text on the dial, a green counterweight on the seconds hand, and red dots at the hour markers. So this swatch has red, white, and green on it, perfect for Christmas, even though it doesn't really look Christmassy. So let's find out which of those watches the Wendigo likes.
My favorite is the red dial Seiko Presage. I've seen a cocktail time in person, and it was absolutely brilliant. You can't mess with those dials. They are just gorgeous.
Yes, I agree, you can't go wrong with the Presage. Absolutely brilliant. Let's watch a creepy Christmas video. So there you have it, and Merry Christmas to everybody out there. Keep your eyes open in January for my State of the Collection video. Hopefully early-ish in January. We'll see. Thanks for watching. And I just don't know about that date dial.